Hello and welcome to the Comedy Roadshow. I'm your host, Stephen Bigilen. My next guest, David Conolly, is visiting our Los Angeles studio from Hollywood, California. Hey David, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great.
Hey, thanks for coming. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a comedian. I travel all over America. Used to travel over England, obviously, when I lived there, but not anymore. And I was an actor for many years, and I've directed a couple of movies. And so now I spend my time either working in the movies or on the road as a comedian.
How did you get into comedy?
I think it was about when I was at college. I did my first stand-up gig in Leicester, where you got your jacket from. I did that in 1990, was when I did my first ever stand-up comedy. And then I think it probably went so terribly wrong that I didn't do it for many years after that, and then I kept dipping back into it, usually between acting jobs. I was thinking that the great thing about comedy is it's just you and a microphone, and you don't have to, go through casting directors or 500 auditions. And so I kept drifting in and out of it, and then I started again in America about 2.5 years ago.
Which comedians influenced you?
Well, it was mainly English comedians like Ben Elton. Stuart Lee is probably my favourite now. I mean, I'd like to say Eddie Izzard, but Eddie Izzard and me are kind of the same age. So I mean, I'd say that now he's probably where the kind of comedy that I would love to be doing. But it took him a long time to get there. But in the 80s, there were some great British comedians. Harry Enfield was another one.
Could you tell us the names of some up-and-coming comics that, you're in the clubs a lot.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us the names of these comics that you think are really hot right now?
Right now, I mean, I work with Vargas Mason a lot at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. I think he's as good as it gets. I'm surprised he's not famous. I think there's a guy called Landry who's just won the World Series of Comedy, which I mean, I've been very lucky. I've been there for the last 3 years in Las Vegas. I think I'm the token non-American there, but I mean, Landry's not American, he's Canadian. I think he's a really excellent comedian. He won it this year. I wouldn't be surprised if that catapults him to the next level.
What clubs are you routinely at? Like, what's the circuit of clubs that you...
Well, I'm very lucky that I get to play the Comedy Store a lot. I seem to be doing the Ice House in Pasadena a lot. Flappers in Burbank, which is a lovely new club, and that deserves to do well. I was at the Hollywood Improv this last week. To be honest, I'll go anywhere where they'll have me.
And you even go as far as Vegas?
I go as Vegas. I've been all over this country, actually. I mean, I've seen parts of this country that I didn't know existed. I mean, I was on tour at the start of the year, and I was up in Washington State, Oregon, Idaho. I did Minneapolis, and then Chicago, New York. I'm doing again in a few weeks' time.
What clubs in New York did you do?
I did stand-up New York. I should be doing Gotham and stand-up New York again.
You concentrated on Manhattan when you were in New York?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going there because I've got a film that's opening, and so I've asked my managers to sort out, which they're very good. They say, yeah, well, then you can play these clubs while you're there. So I'm going to be doing question and answers about the film, and then running off and doing a gig at the clubs.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because my next question was going to be what other types of media do you do? So you're involved with film?
Yeah, I write and direct with my wife, Hannah Davis. We've had 2 features. We've just agreed to do the 3rd feature in the last 24 hours, so you were lucky. keep talking, because that's last week that wasn't happening. This week it's happening, so that's good. I also have an internet show called Hindsight News, which I host, which is a comedy spoof news show, and I also have a podcast with a very talented Casey Arnold, where it's a narcissistic news, where we talk about the events and then we bring it back to ourselves as much as we can.
Are you getting a lot of viewers from the UK as well as the United States?
Yeah, that's kind of funny, because one of the guys I'm working with, Robert Neuholtz, who's also a comedian and a filmmaker, seems to go together. When we were doing Hindsight News, he had a map of the world of where we were getting the most hits.
Really?
Yeah, and we were getting a lot from Austria. So he's like the Will Ferrell of Austria as far as he's concerned. We were getting a lot from England, some from the East Coast, and then you get some from bizarre countries. You go, wow, I didn't even know that country existed, and somehow they tuned in to watch Hindsight News.
That's incredible that we have that kind of technology right now.
Yeah.
What makes something funny?
I don't know. I mean, there's a guy who I've said I think you should talk to, who's called Jerry Corley, who he's broken it down to a science. And I kind of think he's right. I think there is a structure. I know in my set where every joke is going to be, and I know whether it is hit or not. I mean, he breaks it down to different, different reasons why we laugh. A lot of it is surprise. There's a lot of like a reverse. You set up something and you take them a different way, So it seems to work. I pretty much write down my set, and then I like to give myself a bit of room so that I can actually riff a little bit. But then I try and bring it back. But it's just working it out in front of an audience. And I think because I'm English, I have to really go and work it out quite carefully. Because sometimes I come up with a word that I think was, and everyone just looks at me and go, "What is he talking about?" I have no idea. And I'm thinking, that was the funniest thing I've ever said in my life, and everyone is just staring at me like, he's talking some weird language. So I do have to trust my fellow American comedians, and sometimes go and work out with them and say, "Look, I've got this joke about this and that," and they just say, "Yeah, if you put this word here and that word there, you're going to get them." And I sometimes come out with words that like bollocks, for instance. I came out with it going, "That's a load of bollocks." I think people laugh because there's a guy saying bollocks and they don't know what it means. And then sometimes I have to sit on it and go, "You don't know what I'm talking about," and I have to explain what bollocks are, which are testicles, but it means or bullshit. But then the dog's bollocks is like the most awesome thing that'll ever happen in your life. So it's just like we're talking a different language sometimes.
So dog's bollocks is actually a good thing?
Oh, if you get an Academy Award, like a Brit did do this, she got an Academy Award and she stood up there and went, "This is the dog's bollocks." And I think she had all these famous people looking at her going, "I have no idea what she's talking about. Something to do with dogs. Why did she thank a dog?" But no, that just means that this is awesome.
You're fortunate enough to be a headliner and a feature. You're very modest. You're very modest. Are there tours that you're on that have themes?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing one in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, which is they specifically asked me to go there and do a British tour. Which it's kind of interesting. I get it. I mean, a lot of my humour derives from the fact that I'm a fish out of water. I'm a Brit in America trying to work out how everything works. I don't understand the political system or the healthcare, and I can probably get away with a lot more. I mean, I've been to towns where I'm expecting to get booed off because people say that don't do that material when you're up there, they're going to hate you. Like you can do it in New York or you can do it in LA, but they're going to hate you in Idaho. And I went up and did a load of stuff about healthcare and about gun control, and I got away with it. I think they were probably laughing, going, "He sounds funny. He's got a weird way of talking. I don't know what he's talking about guns killing people, but he's got a weird way of talking, and why things our healthcare system needs looking at. I don't know. He's just got a funny accent."
It's funny that you say this because I wanted to ask you about your childhood. You have a very interesting childhood.
Oh.
Could you enlighten our audience about that?
I actually, I was brought up in a mental hospital. This is true. Not because I was mentally ill. Well, that is questionable. My father worked there. So I spent all my formative years growing up around certified lunatics, basically. And my holiday job while I was training to be an actor is that I used to go back and I used to be a psychiatric nurse for many years, actually. So, yeah, I suppose it was. But childhood-wise, I mean, it was normal to me. It's only when you move away and you tell people, "Oh, didn't you grow up in a mental hospital?" I thought everyone did. No, that's weird, Dave. That's just a little bit weird. Yeah.
So in order to get over your homesickness, you moved to Hollywood.
I moved to Hollywood. I'm surrounded. I feel like I never get homesick.
You're surrounded by delusional people now.
Yeah, but I didn't want people to know that I lived in a mental hospital. I mean, when I was growing up, especially like I went to school, like where the system where I lived, they used to pick you up on a bus and they used to take you to school 10 miles away. Thinking, no one knows I live in a mental hospital. And then if someone wanted to have a go at you, they said, you know, Dave lives in a mental hospital. They go, no, I don't, I do. Oh, no. Especially when it came to girls, that's when I was really embarrassed. I didn't want them to know. And also my father was a priest as well in the mental hospital. That's why we lived in the mental hospital.
Right, that was his job.
That was his job, trying to tell people that there was somebody overlooking them all times. Although they were mainly in the hospital because they thought that someone was overlooking at them at all times. It was it's a very hard job to do, to get that balance right. I mean, quite often, he would always take his dog collar off because he didn't want people to know he's a priest. And then he'd meet people and they were just going, oh, you're the priest, how do you know? Because I was mentally ill. Oh, no. And lots of people telling him that they were Jesus. And he would only go, well, you're not. Yeah, or saying, I just had a great conversation with God. And he would go, did you? It's delusional, isn't it? Oh.
So they would give it back to him.
Yeah. Aren't you supposed to be supporting my relationship with God? Kind of, but, you know, are you off your meds? You know, so it was tough on him. So yeah, that's probably why I got into comedy at an early age, maybe.
Yeah, you had to have a good sense of humor to roll with all of that.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's not what people think of it. It's not depressing. Well, it actually can be very depressing. But I did think that the staff at the hospital, I used to love the camaraderie and the wit that went around. I mean, everyone was very funny. There was this kind of like gallows type of humour that went with the job, basically.
So that was interesting. That you
Yeah,
were surrounded by a group of people that had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
That weren't comedians.
Yeah, yeah, and you do see things, and because you're working with people who are mentally ill, and sometimes they're having very surreal conversations, and you're thinking, this is a great conversation. It's a shame I've got to correct it and say that's delusional. But sometimes you go, yeah, so yeah, you're right. We do live on a ship. In a mental hospital, we don't.
It's easier to go along with it at that point.
Yeah, and sometimes you had to make a decision. It was best to go along with the conversations. I got into some really scary situations as well.
How does that translate to what you're seeing here in America?
Now these guys in this casino in Mesquite. Do you know Mesquite in Nevada?
No.
It's right
It's a little town in.
Oh, it's not even a town. It's just a big casino, really, and it's on the edge of Utah, so they can get all the people coming over from Utah. And then these guys who were just like, rah, you know, and I'm going out there, making jokes about Fox News, and I got accused of eyeing up their girls from the stage. Now, when you're on stage, you've got lights.
You can't see anything. You're like...
There were 600 people. Where are you sitting? They're going, we're in the VIP seats, right at the back. I don't know, they probably weren't selling this, but I mean, let's say they were. Yeah, we're in the VIP seats, right at the back. I'm going, I couldn't see you. Well, yeah, bullshit, we're going to beat the shit out of you anyway. And they started the door closed in the restroom. I was like, can I just finish my... it was horrible. So I did the manly thing. I just ran. And then I ended up in front of these big Native Americans who were just going, you're a funny Englishman. I go, yeah, gotta go. And they're going, stop. They're going, no, what's going on? So these rednecks were chasing me, and they're going, no, you're fine, you're with us. And they literally just got around me and just stopped anything around me. And I just spent the night with the other comedian, Jerry Corley, and these Indian guys who were just sitting there drinking, having a great night.
That's hysterical. That is some story.
Yeah, I just thought, because I had to wear a suit, so I was like, really sort of like all buttoned up, and I thought, am I going to end my days in a restaurant, in a casino, in the desert? Is this it? This is, that's not what
But I love the rescue story too.
They
it's
were
like
great.
How you ended up getting rescued by a bunch of Native Americans.
Yeah, well, I made some jokes as well at that night, because I was talking about the fact that I'm an immigrant, and how difficult it is to get in the country. I was like, what do you have to do? Get adopted by Angelina Jolie? I said, this country has been built on immigration. Well, actually, it was built on killing Indians, wasn't it? And they love that.
Oh, the American Indians love
they
that.
Love that. And they were just talking about it. That was really funny. That was a risk.
Good thing they liked it. You would have had the American Indians after you and the rednecks all the same.
Yeah, it could have been just like, that could have brought everyone together. Just let's all get the English.
And then poor Jerry Corley stuck in the middle of that. He's like, I don't know this guy.
Yeah. Anyone want another joke? No. Oh. And what happened to me, I was in a place in Idaho where I was making these jokes about guns, saying that I don't really get guns. I kill people, but I come to America and I find out no, people kill people with guns mainly, and everyone's like, yeah. And I got off the stage and I went, I was amazed I remember that. I was told to pull that joke, and he said no, we had a bullet factory here and it got closed down, so they're now all anti-guns there. I just keep out. So sometimes it goes in your favour.
You never know.
And I did some stuff, again, I think this was on the cusp of Washington State, Idaho, about healthcare, and I was really digging in at the healthcare, because where I come from, healthcare is free for everybody. And I make these jokes, and and this is a true story. I had an ingrowing toenail, first time I went to a doctor in America. And
for an ingrown toenail, it was probably about $2,000 by the time all was said and done.
For a glorified pedicure. In England, I can have a whole leg taken off. How much is that? It's free. Okay, it's the wrong leg, but it's free, right? So I was telling these guys this, and I'm at the bar afterwards, and I don't ever drink after a road gig now because of what happened to me in Mesquite when I nearly got the living daylights beaten out of me. So I was like drinking my mineral water, and everyone's going, "Do you want to drink?" No. I'm up to run in a minute. And these guys who were wearing cowboy hats, and I sell these British T-shirts at a Union Jack saying "cheaper than going to see Big Ben." So that's the pinnacle of my career. And they said, "Let's talk about healthcare seriously, no jokes." I went, "Oh, here we go." But they were all going, "Oh yeah, we were all changing our minds about that because my wife got sick. I'm now in a lot of trouble financially."
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is like, that's when the comedy thing crosses over, and I was actually thinking, wow, if a politician turned up to this town, they'd
be surprised.
They'd be surprised. I was really surprised. My perspective of America has really changed from going on the road as a comedian.
This is why I say that your brand of humor is extremely relevant in today's society.
Oh, thank you.
You're coming in as an immigrant, but you're really seeing America probably more so than most Americans have seen.
I think it's fabulous. I'm driving along just looking at these, you go through Oregon or Washington, and this is an amazing country. And you stop off in these towns. And what I do love about these towns as well, they're very appreciative of you just turning up. You hit the stage and they're like, hey. Being English, I was saying, let's set the bar down a little bit lower. Don't expect too much, because that might be as good as it gets.
If people want to follow your tours, how do they get the information about?
Go onto my website, davidconollystandup.com.
So it's David
Conolly, CONOLLY, standup.com. And I always post where I'm going to be. I tweet it as well. You can follow me on Twitter, David_Conolly. See, I did that's the underscore. David_Conolly. And I usually alert people of where I'm going to be.
And they could also follow your movie career.
Follow my movie career as well. If you want to follow a movie career, Mansion Pictures NY, as in NewYork.com. We've got a movie called The Understudy, which was recently out in Los Angeles. It got reviewed nicely, so it's now doing a little lap of honor around the States. Next stop is New York, where it's going to be opening on the 2nd of November.
Excellent.
And it's going to be on Showtime, I believe, in the new year. But you know what? Go to the cinema, see it on the big screen.
Sure, that's a great experience. Well, David, thanks for coming to the show. I really appreciate you coming with this busy schedule that you have.
No, this is a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.